This is Meet Sean, where we break down real life topics insurance, annuities, real estate, travel planning, and home ownership so you can make smarter moves. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.
You know that highly specific feeling of cognitive dissonance when you walk out to the mailbox on a Tuesday afternoon?
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
Right. You're shuffling through the usual mundane stack of modern life, the utility bills, the glossy supermarket flyers, the credit card pre-approvals, and then right in the middle, you spot it.
Heavy envelope.
Yes. It's this thick, heavy, oversized envelope. It immediately demands your attention. I mean, the paper stock alone probably cost $4.
Easily $4.
So you open it up, and out slides this absolutely stunning piece of stationery. It's an invitation for your friend's wedding, and there's a gorgeous photo of a pristine tropical beach or, maybe a majestic mountain range.
With some elegant gold foil catching the afternoon sun.
Exactly. They are getting married, and they're doing it thousands of miles from home, which creates this immediate psychological split, doesn't it?
It really does. Because your very first reaction, assuming you actually like these people, is a genuine swell of happiness. You are honored they want you there.
Oh, for sure.
But then, within about 3 seconds, the rational economic side of your brain takes over. You start calculating the logistics.
You start doing the wallet panic dance. You're standing there in your driveway, pulling out your smartphone to check flight algorithms before you even get back to your front door.
Right. You're doing the mental math. Airfare, plus 3 nights at a resort, plus transportation.
Plus the gift and using up your limited vacation days. It's a beautiful invitation, but it essentially acts as a highly stylized invoice.
That is a brutally accurate way to put it. An invoice.
And for the couple sending that invitation, the financial reality is even more daunting. I mean, according to industry data from brides, the average couple is spending roughly $35,000 on their big day.
Which just a staggering baseline.
It really is. We need to stop and think about that number. $35,000 is a down payment on a house in a lot of markets. It's a luxury vehicle. And that's just the statistical average.
Yeah, and it highlights the macroeconomic reality of the modern wedding industry. We've conditioned ourselves to view weddings purely as emotional milestones, sacred familial gatherings.
But practically speaking,
they are massive economic undertakings. And when you look at the research from Carter Travel Excursions, they're this specialized agency down in St. Petersburg, Florida, that essentially engineers these events for a living. They point out a really critical blind spot.
Which is what?
Well, while the couple is absorbing that $35,000 impact, the guests are quietly financing their own microeconomies just to attend.
Oh, right. Because I'm paying for my own flights.
Exactly. The guests are absorbing the costs of flights, the premium nightly hotel rates, the ground transportation, even the pet sitters back home. The financial friction is distributed across everyone involved.
Which brings us to the core mission of what we are unpacking in our deep dive today. If you're a couple trying to figure out how to host a deeply meaningful destination wedding without, liquidating your retirement accounts.
Or if you're a guest staring at one of those beautiful envelopes.
Right. Wondering how you are going to afford to be a good friend. We have a comprehensive roadmap for you. We're looking at this not as a spreadsheet of restrictions, but as an architectural challenge.
I like that framing.
Yeah, it's like being invited to an exclusive VIP party, but you have to figure out how to pay the cover charge yourself without going broke. Okay, let's unpack this.
The underlying philosophy here is vital. You do not have to choose between celebrating a relationship and protecting your financial future.
Thank goodness. Right.
The wedding industrial complex often relies on emotional manipulation. This idea that if you don't spend extravagantly, you just don't care enough.
The guilt.
Exactly. But the data and strategies we're examining today prove that a highly memorable, beautiful event can actually be optimized. It just requires understanding the underlying mechanisms of the travel and hospitality sectors.
Like how hotels calculate risk or how airlines manage yield?
Precisely. And how you can position yourself advantageously within those systems.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. Before anyone even looks at a sunset beach photo or opens a flight aggregator, the entire economic footprint of this event is dictated by time and people.
Yes, time and people, the two immovable pillars.
Let's talk about time first. The absolute gold standard rule for the architecture of affordability is establishing a 12 to 18-month runway. Now, my immediate thought is that a year and a half feels agonizingly slow for a newly engaged couple.
Does feel slow, sure.
Yeah, the impulse is to capitalize on the momentum. You get engaged, you want to go. So what is the actual mechanical advantage of stretching the timeline out that far?
Well, it has very little to do with the couple's eagerness and everything to do with cash flow management and inflation hedging.
Inflation hedging for a wedding.
Absolutely. From the couple's perspective, a destination wedding requires a series of substantial staggered deposits. A 12 to 18-month window allows you to spread those liabilities out across 2 different tax years.
Oh, wow. I hadn't thought about the tax year angle.
Yeah, and multiple bonus cycles at work, rather than draining your immediate liquidity all at once. But more importantly, the long runway is the ultimate courtesy to your guests.
Because it gives them time to save.
Right. You are giving your attendees the financial bandwidth to strategize.
I see. Because if you drop a destination invite on someone with, say, 4 months' notice, you are effectively forcing them to finance the trip on a high-interest credit card.
Or you're forcing them to decline the invitation entirely.
Wow. Yeah, you're weaponizing their affection for you against their budget.
That's a great way to put it. You're putting them in a localized financial crisis. Giving them 18 months allows them to integrate the cost into their annual budget. They can set up a dedicated sinking fund.
They can monitor flight sales.
Exactly. And within that long planning phase, there is a critical behavioral economics concept we really have to discuss. The mandatory buffer.
Right, the buffer. Anyone planning or attending needs to mathematically bake a 10-15% buffer into their initial projections, right?
Yes. 10 to 15% is non-negotiable.
Let's drill down into that, because I think a lot of people just calculate the flight plus the hotel, multiply by the number of nights, and think they have their final number.
Which is a huge mistake.
Right. But travel operates in a world of high friction. When we talk about a 15% buffer on a $5,000 trip, which is, what, $750? What specific mechanical failures in the plan is that money actually insuring against?
It insures against the inevitable inefficiencies of moving human beings across international borders. The travel industry is literally designed to monetize your minor inconveniences.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's say your flight is delayed by 4 hours. You are now a captive audience in an airport terminal, which is essentially an artificial economy with hyperinflated pricing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where a bottle of water is $7.
Exactly. You are going to spend $80 on 2 mediocre meals and some water.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you arrive at your destination, but the prearranged group shuttle has already left because of your delay.
Oh, no. So you're stranded.
Right. You now have to source a private last-minute transfer to the resort. That's $150 you didn't model for in your spreadsheet.
Or the classic forgotten item. You get to the resort, you open your suitcase and realize you forgot your formal shoes. Or, your specialized reef-safe sunscreen.
And the resort boutique knows you have zero leverage.
Right. There are no alternative markets to shop in, so they are charging you a 300% markup.
Exactly. And for the couple hosting, the friction points are even larger. Say a vendor needs to rent an unexpected piece of heavy equipment to secure a tent because the wind is higher than historical averages.
That sounds expensive.
It is. Or you suddenly need to commission 3 extra golf carts to transport elderly family members who didn't realize the beachfront was quite that far from their rooms.
Logistics.
Right. If you have engineered that 10 to 15% buffer into the front end of your savings over those 18 months, that unexpected golf cart rental is just a logistical footnote.
But if you have zero buffer...
If you have zero buffer, that rental becomes an active source of resentment and stress on your actual wedding day.
So the buffer is essentially a premium you pay to yourself to protect your own psychological state. I like that a lot.
It's self-care through financial planning.
Okay, so time is the first pillar. The second immovable pillar of the budget is the people, the guest list. And this is usually where the spreadsheets meet the messy reality of human relationships.
It is the most volatile variable in the entire equation.
I can imagine.
The fundamental math is undefeated here. Every single human being you add to the list represents a cascading series of costs. It's not just the plate of food.
Right, it's the drinks, the cake.
It's the ratio of bartenders required to service them. It's the cubic square footage of the venue space you need to rent. It's the number of centerpieces needed to fill the extra tables they sit at.
Wow. So adding just 10 people could change everything.
If you add 10 people, you might literally have to upgrade to a completely different tier of venue.
But editing a guest list is excruciating. You're navigating family politics, the guilt of not inviting someone whose wedding you attended 5 years ago.
The parental pressure to invite their business associates.
Exactly. But looking at the strategy outlined by Carter Travel, the destination wedding actually serves as a highly effective psychological tool here. You're basically using geography as a polite bouncer.
That is a phenomenal way to conceptualize it. The polite bouncer.
Yeah.
In a traditional hometown setting, the social contract almost demands you invite the periphery of your social circle.
Right. Coworkers, third cousins.
And the result is often a bloated event where the couple spends their entire reception doing superficial laps around a ballroom. They're spending roughly 45 seconds with 200 different people.
They are performing a role. You're shaking hands like a politician on a campaign trail. You barely remember the evening because you were so busy managing the crowd.
But the destination framework naturally dismantles that pressure. It acts as an organic filter. When you ask people to fly to another country or travel to a remote mountain lodge, the logistics self-select for the people who are most deeply invested in your life.
The superficial relationships just naturally opt out.
Exactly. And this allows you to redirect the capital. Instead of spreading your budget paper thin to provide mediocre chicken dinners for 250 acquaintances, you concentrate that exact same capital.
To do what?
To provide a deeply immersive, multi-day luxury experience for 50 of your closest friends and family.
You are trading width for depth. You're buying 3 days of actual conversation and shared meals by the pool with your best friends, rather than 3 hours of loud music in a banquet hall.
That's the real value proposition.
That makes a lot of sense. But here is where we need to talk about the actual date of the event, because the strategy gets highly controversial here.
The off-peak strategy.
Yes. To maximize this budget, the recommendation is to target off-peak seasons, which structurally slashes costs by 20 to 40% because you aren't fighting peak demand. But then it suggests hosting the event on a weekday.
A Tuesday or Wednesday wedding.
Right. Now, I have to push back on this. If you invite me to a Tuesday wedding, you are making a massive assumption about my life.
How so?
You're assuming I have paid time off or that I can easily pull my kids out of school. Doesn't a weekday wedding fundamentally gatekeep working-class friends or people with rigid hourly jobs from attending?
That is a highly valid critique, and it requires a very nuanced risk-benefit analysis from the couple. You are absolutely right that a weekday event imposes a different kind of friction on the attendees.
It's a huge ask.
If you have a guest list populated heavily by hourly workers, teachers, or people in highly rigid corporate structures, a Tuesday wedding might cross the line from a polite filter into an active barrier.
So how does the travel industry justify recommending it?
What's fascinating here is that you have to weigh that friction against the economic reality of weekend resort pricing. The entire hospitality industry is built on yield management.
Right, supply and demand.
Venues and vendors know that Saturday is the pinnacle of demand, so they mathematically price gouge that specific window. A photographer who charges $3,000 on a Tuesday might charge $6,000 on a Saturday, simply because they have the leverage to do so.
That's double the price just for the day of the week.
Exactly. The logic presented by the destination planners is that if your core group of 50 people is already committing to international or long-distance travel, the days of the week begin to lose their standard utility.
Meaning, if I'm flying to Mexico, I'm taking the week off regardless.
Exactly. If you were at a coastal resort, the environmental cues of a Tuesday are indistinguishable from a Saturday. The sun still sets the same way.
But the economic footprint is vastly different.
Massively. Midweek aviation fuel is cheaper, so airlines price Tuesday flights lower. Hotel occupancy dips midweek, so the nightly rate drops.
So by coordinating a weekday event, the couple saves tens of thousands of dollars on the venue and vendors,
while simultaneously forcing their guests into the most optimal travel booking windows, potentially saving each guest hundreds of dollars on flights and rooms.
I see the math there. It's a collective action problem. You are asking for a heavier logistical lift on the front end, taking a Tuesday off work in exchange for a massive structural discount on the back end for everyone involved.
You just have to know your audience and whether they can absorb that front-end logistical hit.
Okay, so we have built the parameters. We have our long runway, our heavily curated guest list, and we are targeting that off-peak economic window. Let's talk about the physical space. Venue selection.
This is where it gets really visual.
Right. How are we acquiring a breathtaking aesthetic without paying premium aesthetic prices?
The secret here is to stop paying to manufacture beauty and start leveraging existing natural infrastructure. Think about a standard hotel ballroom in a major city.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
When you rent that space, you are essentially renting a large, beige, windowless box.
Right. And to make that box look romantic, you have to initiate a massive supply chain. You have to hire lighting technicians to change the mood.
You have to pay florists to construct massive, towering centerpieces.
Just to draw the eye away from the ugly carpet. You are paying for a theatrical set to be built and torn down in a span of 8 hours?
Exactly. You are fighting the environment. The strategic pivot for a destination wedding is to choose an environment that does the heavy lifting for you.
Like an ocean cliffside.
An ocean cliffside, a botanical garden, a mountain summit. Nature operates at a scale of beauty that a florist simply cannot replicate. And it charges $0 in rental fees for the sunset.
You're redirecting your budget from decorative camouflage into the actual guest experience. But the research notes a very specific discrepancy here that I found fascinating.
About the different types of nature.
Yes. Not all nature is priced equally on the open market. It explicitly points out that a beachfront venue is going to cost significantly more than a mountain setting. Why is that? Sand is sand, rocks are rocks. Why the massive price gap?
It all comes down to global real estate demand and the logistics of supply chains. Beachfront property, particularly in tropical climates, is universally sought after for year-round recreation.
So the baseline cost is just higher.
Right. That constant, high-volume demand establishes a massively inflated baseline cost for every square foot of sand. But beyond the real estate, think about the logistics of operating a luxury resort on a secluded island or a coastal strip.
Everything has to be imported.
Everything. The building materials, the specialized labor, the high-end catering ingredients, the imported floral arrangements, they all have to arrive via cargo ship or expensive air freight.
You are paying the hidden shipping costs on every single item at that wedding.
Precisely.
I hadn't thought about that. If I won white roses on a Caribbean island, those roses had to take 2 flights and a boat to get to my table.
Exactly. Whereas a mountain setting, while offering an equally awe-inspiring massive natural backdrop, often operates with a different infrastructure.
Less importation.
Usually, yes. There might be less concentrated luxury competition driving up the baseline real estate. They might utilize more native flora and local agricultural sourcing, bypassing those massive importation costs.
So if your primary goal is simply to secure a stunning natural backdrop rather than fulfilling a specific toes in the sand fantasy, pivoting from the beach to the mountains can yield incredible financial leverage.
While maintaining the exact same aesthetic wow factor.
That is a phenomenal insight. You are analyzing the supply chain of the venue before you book it.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we have our location. Now we have to actually execute the event.
We have to feed these people.
Exactly. Pour them drinks and entertain them. And this introduces a concept that feels almost too good to be true, the all-inclusive cheat code.
The all-inclusive model fundamentally shifts the financial risk from the consumer back to the corporation. Well, in a traditional a la carte wedding, you are operating with an infinitely variable budget. You pay a venue fee, then you hire a caterer who charges per plate.
Then you hire a bartender who charges based on consumption.
You rent the chairs from one vendor, the linens from another. Every single decision is a new variable, which makes cost overruns a mathematical certainty.
Right, because in the a la carte model, if Uncle Bob decides he's going to drink 7 premium scotches at the reception,
which he will,
I am getting a bill for those 7 premium scotches at $30 a pop the next morning. I am personally underwriting Uncle Bob's enthusiasm.
Exactly. But an all-inclusive resort operates on a model of actuarial aggregation. They bundle the ceremony space, the reception, the multi-course catering, the open bar, and the baseline decor into a single upfront flat fee.
How can they afford to do that with Uncle Bob there?
They can do this because they understand the concept of breakage. They know Uncle Bob is going to drink 7 scotches, but they also know Aunt Susan's going to drink 2 glasses of tap water and go to bed at 9.
So it averages out.
Yes. They aggregate the consumption across thousands of guests over the year.
So they absorb the statistical outliers, which means I don't have to. The all-inclusive package is essentially an insurance policy against budget creep.
That's exactly what it is.
It's like buying a fixed-rate mortgage instead of an adjustable-rate one. You know exactly what your liability is before the first guest even arrives.
That is exactly the mechanism. It provides unparalleled budget certainty, which dramatically reduces the psychological toll of planning. And the data from groups like Carter Travel highlights the secondary efficiency here.
What's that?
If you book an all-inclusive resort, you have the option to seamlessly transition your wedding location into your honeymoon location.
Oh, you just stay in the room after everyone else flies home.
Yes. And mechanically, that eliminates an entire secondary tier of logistics. You do not have to book a second set of international flights. You do not lose 2 days of your vacation time in transit between the wedding venue and the honeymoon destination.
You are maximizing your time and your capital simultaneously.
It's brilliantly efficient.
It really is.
Yeah.
But to bring you, the listener, back into the reality of the situation, if you're sitting there listening to this, nodding along to the all-inclusive strategy, we have to acknowledge a harsh truth.
Which is?
None of this beautiful, efficient venue planning matters if your guests go bankrupt just trying to acquire a seat on the airplane. We have to pivot to the actual travel mechanics, getting the humans to the destination.
The logistics of flight.
Right. Let's look at the science of flight booking. The guide lays down very rigid parameters. Domestic flights must be booked 2 to 3 months out, and international routes 3 to 6 months out. Why are these specific windows so rigid? What is actually happening behind the scenes?
What is happening is algorithmic yield management. The airline industry does not price tickets based on what a seat actually costs to operate.
They don't?
No. They price tickets based on the exact maximum amount a specific human is willing to pay at a specific moment in time.
That sounds slightly dystopian.
It's purely algorithmic. The algorithm monitors historical booking curves. If you try to book an international flight 11 months in advance, the algorithm assumes you are a highly anxious planner with inflexible dates.
And what does it do with that assumption?
It charges you a premium for that perceived rigidity.
Quick pause. Got a question you want covered on an upcoming episode? Use the Send Us a Text link in the show notes and tell me what you're dealing with. I read them and I pulled topics straight from your messages.
Wow. Wait, really? So booking too early is actually penalized. I always assumed the earlier the better.
It is a very common misconception. The airlines hold back their cheapest fare buckets until they reach that 3 to 6 month window, because that is when they want to stimulate baseline recreational demand to guarantee a minimum load factor on the aircraft.
Okay, but what if I wait until the last minute?
If you wait until 3 weeks before the flight, the algorithm shifts its assumptions again. It now assumes you are a corporate traveler booking a last-minute trip on a company credit card.
Or you're experiencing a family emergency.
Right. In either case, your price sensitivity is 0. So the algorithm dynamically spikes the price to capture that urgency.
So it's basically a stock market order book. You are trying to buy in the exact window where the airline's desire to fill seats intersects with the recreational traveler's timeline.
Exactly.
But even within that 3 to 6 month window, I know you shouldn't just buy the first fare you see. We need to talk about leveraging technology to monitor these micro fluctuations.
Correct. Human beings are terrible at constantly monitoring volatile data sets. This is where you deploy tools like Google Flights or the Hopper app.
I use those all the time.
They're essential. The strategy is to input your required routes and dates months in advance and set up automated fare alerts. These systems use historical modeling to predict whether the current price is artificially high.
And they notify you the moment the airline drops a new bucket of lower-priced inventory.
Exactly.
It removes the emotional panic of buying a ticket. You aren't guessing. You're letting the software tell you when the math is mathematically optimized. But the research also points to a broader financial strategy here, which is the optimization of travel rewards credit cards.
This is a huge piece of the puzzle.
And I don't want to just give the basic use a credit card advice because I think everyone knows that. How are savvy travelers structurally manipulating these points for a destination wedding?
The advanced maneuver requires foresight. If you know you have an 18-month runway before this wedding, you don't just use your existing card. You actively research and open a new premium travel rewards card that offers a massive sign-up bonus.
Like 80,000 points if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months.
Exactly. You then route your rigid, fixed cost of living expenses through that card. You pay your car insurance, your utilities, your groceries, your gas.
So you aren't buying extra things, you're just changing the pipe that your existing money flows through.
That's it. You are leveraging your necessary baseline existence into fungible travel assets. By the time that 3 to 6 month flight booking window opens, you have mathematically manufactured enough points to cover the entire cost of the airfare.
Which fundamentally alters your personal balance sheet for the trip.
It does. But the critical caveat, of course, is that this only works if the balance is paid in full every 30 days. If you carry a balance, the interest rate immediately negates the value of the points.
Right. The banks are betting you will mess up the math, so you have to be super disciplined. Okay, so we have hacked the algorithm. We have weaponized our utility bills to buy our flights. Now we land at the destination.
Time to check in.
Where's everyone sleeping? The baseline strategy for accommodations is securing room blocks. Let's break down the mechanics of a hotel room block. How does it actually save money?
A room block works on the principle of wholesale volume discounting. If you, as an individual, call a hotel for a room, you are a retail customer paying retail margins.
Makes sense.
But if a couple approaches a hotel and guarantees they will fill 20 rooms for 3 nights, they are now operating as a wholesale distributor. The hotel's primary enemy is an empty room. It's a perishable asset. To guarantee that 60-room night occupancy, the hotel will eagerly slash the nightly rate, waive resort fees, and throw in complimentary upgrades that are invisible to the retail market.
But there's a massive risk here that we need to explain, right? The attrition clause.
Yes, the dreaded attrition clause.
Because if I guarantee the hotel 20 rooms and only 12 of my guests actually book them, who pays for those 8 empty rooms?
That is the hidden danger of DIY room blocks. In a standard contract, the couple is financially liable for the attrition rate. If the rooms don't fill, the couple gets a massive bill at checkout for inventory they didn't even use.
That makes me sweat just thinking about it.
Which is why negotiating these contracts requires serious precision.
But moving away from the massive hotels for a second, the guide suggests a totally different paradigm for accommodations that I want to explore. It brings up the idea of guests banding together and renting large vacation villas or off-site rentals to split the costs.
The shared rental strategy.
Right. If we have 5 couples sharing a massive 10-bedroom villa, they are cutting their lodging costs in half compared to 5 separate hotel rooms. But I have to ask, does cramming everyone into an Airbnb fundamentally kill the luxury wedding vibe? Doesn't it turn an elegant celebration into a chaotic college reunion?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of why you were traveling in the first place, sharing a specialized rental actually amplifies the desired outcome.
How so?
Remember, the goal of a curated destination wedding is intimacy and shared experience. A hotel, by its very nature, is atomizing. It isolates people in sterile, identical boxes down long hallways.
That's a really great point. You go back to your room, you shut the heavy door, and the community aspect of the trip immediately pauses until the next scheduled event.
Exactly. But a shared villa changes the social architecture of the trip. The communal spaces, the shared kitchen, the private patio, the living room become organic gathering points.
You're having coffee together at 7 a.m.
You're coordinating outfits in the hallway. You're sharing a late-night debrief after the reception. The cost-saving mechanism splitting the rent actually produces a richer social fabric.
That's beautiful.
The only logistical mandate is that the transportation vector to the actual wedding venue must be flawlessly executed. You cannot have 10 guests in formal wear trying to navigate foreign taxi apps at sunset.
Right. You replace the luxury of room service with the luxury of constant access to your closest friends. I love that reframe. But man, listening to ourselves talk through this.
It's a lot, isn't it?
We are outlining an incredibly complex system. We're talking about tracking yield management algorithms, managing global supply chains for floral arrangements, negotiating wholesale attrition contracts with corporate hotels, orchestrating off-site transportation vectors.
It is effectively a part-time job.
If you are a couple with full-time jobs, maybe trying to buy a house or navigate daily life, how on earth are you supposed to project manage this level of logistical friction without losing your mind?
You have hit the exact pivot point where the entire destination wedding industry shifts from a theoretical exercise into practical execution. The answer is that a couple shouldn't manage this.
They sure.
Attempting to manage this level of global logistics with zero industry background introduces what we call the illusion of DIY savings.
The illusion of DIY savings. Let's unpack that, because our generation is fundamentally conditioned to believe that if we cut out the middleman, we are automatically winning. We think because we can open a dozen browser tabs and read Yelp reviews, we're qualified travel agents.
It is a textbook example of information asymmetry. When you, as a consumer, log on to a massive travel aggregator site, you believe you are seeing the entire market.
But I'm not.
You are not. You are seeing the retail inventory that the algorithms have decided to show you. You are seeing heavily manipulated, color-corrected photos of resorts. You are reading reviews that may or may not be authentic. The DIY approach assumes that time has no value and that you possess the leverage to negotiate with multinational hospitality conglomerates.
It's the Dunning-Kruger effect of travel planning. You think you're an expert because you successfully booked a weekend trip to Vegas once, so obviously you can coordinate a multi-day international luxury event for 50 people.
Exactly.
But what are the actual hidden costs of that hubris? What happens when DIY goes wrong?
The structural failures can be catastrophic. You might select a hotel based on incredible photos, only to discover upon arrival that it's located next to a massive active construction site that the website conveniently omitted.
Oh, that would be a nightmare.
Or you might hire a local photographer based on a sleek Instagram presence, wire them a $2,000 deposit, and then they simply ghost you on the day of the event.
Because you have no local leverage and no contractual enforcement across international borders.
Right. Your savings instantly evaporate into a complete loss. And crucially, you create a wildly inconsistent experience for your guests because everyone is forced to fend for themselves in this chaotic ecosystem.
You are operating entirely without a safety net. Which brings us to the ultimate secret weapon detailed in our research today, the deployment of an expert planner with exclusive industry partnerships.
This is where the professionals come in.
Right. The source material leans heavily into the operational model of Carter Travel Excursions out of St. Petersburg, Florida. By the way, if you're taking notes, you can reach them at 727-314-1865 or info@carterexcursions.net.
They are a prime example of how this functions in the real world.
Let's look at the mechanics of an agency like Carter Travel. When they say they have exclusive partnerships, what does that actually mean on the balance sheet?
It means they operate in the wholesale economy, not the retail economy. A specialized travel agency doesn't book rooms the way you or I do. They have established multi-year contracts with the management networks of these global resorts.
So they have real leverage.
Huge leverage. Because an agency like Carter Travel drives millions of dollars of consistent volume to these properties year after year, they have access to net rates prices, stripped of the massive retail markups.
So the planner acts as an institutional buyer. They buy in bulk, and they pass those structural discounts down to the couple.
Precisely. Furthermore, they utilize their localized knowledge to eliminate those hidden supply chain costs we discussed earlier.
Like the imported flowers.
Right. A generic planner might try to import a specific trendy floral arrangement from the U.S. to Mexico, incurring massive shipping and customs fees. A deeply connected agency knows the absolute best indigenous florists in that specific region.
They know the reliable local transportation companies.
They curate a vetted ecosystem of vendors that guarantees high execution quality while keeping the capital within the local economy.
I'm thinking of an analogy here. Imagine you are trying to navigate a dense, overgrown forest. The DIY method is like using a generic satellite map app on your phone. The app shows you a straight line from point A to point B. It looks easy.
But it's not.
No, because the map doesn't show you the washed-out bridge, the sudden drop-offs, or the thick mud. Hiring an expert planner is like hiring a local guide who has walked those specific trails every day for 10 years.
They know exactly which path avoids the mud.
Right. They know where the hidden scenic overlooks are. They get you to the destination faster, safer, and with significantly less anxiety.
That is a highly accurate representation of the dynamic. The planner maps the terrain. But the value of the planner extends far beyond just securing the couple's venue. A critical component of their service model is what we can term guest advocacy.
Guest advocacy? That almost sounds like having a legal representative for your vacation. How does a planner advocate for the guests?
By acting as a central node of risk management and logistical support. Think about the guest list. Not every guest has the same financial capacity.
Definitely not.
A great planner will work individually with the guests to secure accommodation tiers that fit their specific budgets, perhaps finding a garden view room for a younger cousin, while securing an oceanfront suite for the parents.
And they manage the complex flight coordination.
They organize group excursions, like a private catamaran tour, negotiating group rates that an individual guest could never access.
And they handle the incredibly boring but mathematically essential defensive strategies, like travel insurance.
Exactly. Travel insurance is a complex financial instrument. A planner analyzes the specific routing and the seasonal weather risks and mandates the correct coverage.
Because things will go wrong.
Inevitably. When a massive winter storm grounds flights in the Northeast or an airline labor strike strands half your guest list, the DIY couple is left sitting in a hotel lobby weeping into their phones, spending the first 2 days of their wedding week on hold with customer service.
The disruption becomes the focal point of the entire event.
But when you have a professional advocate, they are the ones absorbing that friction. The agency monitors the flight boards. The agency is on the phone rerouting passengers and securing refunds before the guests even realize there is a problem.
Wow. So the ultimate return on investment for hiring an expert planner is not just the wholesale pricing.
No, the true ROI is the preservation of your psychological bandwidth. It is the peace of mind knowing that a professional is actively managing the crisis, allowing you to remain present in the celebration.
It completely alters the emotional frequency of the trip. You transition from being an anxious, overworked project manager into actually being the guest of honor at your own wedding. You get to be the couple, and your guests get to just be happy travelers.
Precisely. It is about removing the friction so the underlying relationship can be celebrated.
Okay, if you're listening to this and you are either planning an event or you are staring at an invitation on your kitchen counter, we have covered a massive amount of structural theory today.
We really have.
Let's synthesize the playbook from the Carter travel methodology. If you want to master the destination wedding without triggering a financial crisis, here are the architectural pillars. Number 1, expand your timeline.
Give yourself and your guests a 12 to 18-month runway.
Right. To manage cash flow and absorb the psychological weight of the trip. Number 2, lean into the geography as a polite bouncer.
Let the destination naturally curate your guest list down to the people who truly matter, trading superficial width for deep intimacy.
Number 3, rethink your venue economics. Stop paying to manufacture beauty in empty rooms and leverage natural infrastructure, mountains, botanical gardens, cliffsides.
While heavily considering the actuarial safety of the all-inclusive model to cap your financial liability.
Number 4, respect the algorithms. Track your flights using software, don't buy too early or too late, and systematically leverage your fixed living expenses through premium credit cards to manufacture travel capital.
And finally, number 5, abandon the illusion of DIY savings.
Acknowledge the asymmetry of information and hire an institution buyer, a planner who operates on wholesale rates and acts as a localized risk manager for you and your guests.
It all routes back to the foundational truth we started with. The elaborate stationery, the flights, the hotel rooms, these are just mechanisms. A wedding invitation represents a relationship, not a financial obligation.
The entire goal of these complex strategies is to minimize the economic stress so you can actually experience the human connection you traveled so far to celebrate.
It's about the people, not the centerpieces.
Absolutely. But as we wrap this up, if you zoom out and look at the macroeconomics we've discussed today, if a highly curated destination event leveraging off-peak demand curves, utilizing a tightly filtered guest list, and employing expert wholesale negotiators can actually result in a vastly superior multi-day experience for less total capital than a traditional hometown ballroom blowout.
It really forces a critical question.
It does. Is the $35,000 local wedding industry genuinely selling us a product of equal value? Or is that massive price tag largely just a tax we pay to satisfy the societal pressure of inviting every single person we know to a 4-hour performance?
It forces us to examine whether we are purchasing an authentic experience or merely financing a social expectation.
That is a heavy paradigm-shifting thought to leave you with. Are you paying for the intimacy, or are you paying the social tax? Thank you to everyone for navigating these complex systems with us today.
It's been a great discussion.
The next time you walk to the mailbox and pull out that heavy, beautiful envelope with the tropical sunset, hopefully you won't feel that spike of panic. You understand the machinery now. You have the playbook. Plan intelligently, travel safely, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.
That's it for today's Meet Sean. If this helped, follow the show and share this episode with one person who needs it. See you next time.